G'day everybody, Matt Ellis with you for the latest edition of the Cricket Library podcast, and today we get to hear the David Hussey story.
Oh, what a little ripper! That one's Michael. The fellow Baltic's called David. The Hussey brothers have a great Melbourne moment. Hussey to Hussey, this is like the backyard.
You're right there. The crowd are very happy with this. The home crowd for David Hussey, the adopted home crowd.
In the air it goes. It's long. It's very long. What a gutsy shot at this stage of the innings.
He's mountainous. Just got a one and get me on strike, and he's just cleared it out of the ground. That is fantastic. David Hussey has really got the crowd here at the MCG rocking.
From playing in the backyard to playing on the big stage of the MCG, it's time to sit back, relax and enjoy the David Hussey story on the Cricket Library podcast. It's a very warm welcome to the Cricket Library podcast, David Hussey. Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure, Matty. Yeah, look forward to today.
Yeah, always good to start with your love of the game. We have a diverse range of guests on the show, and really interested to know for you, where was the fire lit? You're still involved in cricket to this day. Where did it all begin for David Hussey?
Well, probably like most kids throughout the world, I started off in the backyard just with my older brother, Michael. We played backyard test matches, but probably the first love was watching Dennis Lillee, Rod Marsh, Greg Chappell on the tally, and then sort of try to replicate them out in the backyard with my brother. And yeah, well, I'd like to say we played with the right spirit of cricket in mind, but we were actually terrible, too competitive, and generally ended up in fights. So yeah, well, it wasn't the best childhood, but I guess it sort of helped us with our competitive nature when we grew up later on and fulfilled our dreams of playing cricket at the highest level.
Sounds a little bit like my older brother and I. Now, Michael mentions in his book that he had to kind of initially sort of bribe you by letting you bat first. Is that true that you kind of had a little bit of an early win there, and that you got to have a hit first?
Yes, it is true, 100% true, but I was more clever than Michael because I knew that he wanted to desperately play, and so if I wanted to play as well, but I knew if I sort of held back my enthusiasm to play at the back, that I'll always get the opportunity to bat first. But regularly it backfired, Matty, because I'd get out pretty much in the first 10 balls because he was older and faster, and we used to use a taped up tennis ball, and he used to get me out for fun. And I used to probably cheat as well, and by saying that I didn't hit it when I did, and I missed the stumps and actually took the bails off, sort of thing, and therefore once I was actually dismissed, I ended up bowling to him for hours, which wasn't great. Everybody knows you want to bat for a long period of time, and I ended up bowling for hours on end, but in all, it was bloody good fun, and I really enjoyed my childhood back in Perth with my brother and my two sisters. Yeah,
and talk about your first taste of junior club cricket. Do you remember much about what it was like? You've transitioned from playing these backyard test matches where you're emulating your heroes to actually join a local cricket club and put on the white uniform and play in a team for the first time?
Well, I more remember probably Mike making his club debut for Whitford and scoring some runs, and I was thinking, geez, I was probably envious and wanted to replicate him and his performances. So in the under-12s, unfortunately, our parents didn't let us play junior cricket, so we had to start at under-12s. And I remember my first game, I think I batted, I think I got about 4 runs and got hit for, it felt like none for 300 off my bowling. So I didn't think it was going to be a great future in playing cricket, but it's something that you love and you want to hang out with your friends. And it's something that I'm really happy that I stuck at for my entire life, really.
Yeah, and you play some representative stuff, and my understanding is sort of when you broke in those junior representative pathway teams, you were predominantly a bowler. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was an off spinner. even playing a district cricket for Wanneroo, I was more of an off spinner who could bat, say, 7, 8 or 9, bat pretty low and just try and help out the tail with some extra runs. I'd probably more say I'm a bit of a cowboy as a batter, like just try and hit as many runs as I possibly could before they got me out. But yeah, predominantly an off spinner, which I really enjoyed bowling, and I had a really good off spinning coach in Brett Mulder who used to play bits for WA, and he was excellent to deal with, an excellent coach, and he knew my limitations, he knew my strengths, and something I really enjoyed working with him Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday nights before the weekend of cricket, and lucky enough to get picked in the under-17s and under-19s as an off spinner. But I think the state coaches in WA realised that I wasn't ever going to make it as an off spinner, and I'd had to improve my batting in order to make it at the next level in Shield cricket.
Was there a young leg spinner around at that time that turned out to be a pretty handy batter as well?
Yeah, actually, the current head coach of Victoria, Chris Rogers, he was the first choice leg spinner in the WA under-17s team, and I was the first choice off spinner, but he made the first team, and I was relegated to the 13th man. So I think we both realised that we had to do a lot of work in our batting in order to make it to the next level. And fortunately, Chris went on, and he had the grit and determination to play at the highest level, and he worked incredibly hard to play Test cricket. And I'm glad he did. He achieved his goal, which like anybody does who wants to grow up and play Test cricket for Australia. That's the ultimate goal, and he did it, it's a great story.
Yeah, certainly is. And you both end up in Victoria. Now, how did that happen for you in terms of where were you at in life, and what sort of led to your decision to head over to play in Melbourne?
It's a long story, which I'll try and keep it reasonably brief. I was at university in Perth, living at home, having the best life. My mum pretty much did everything for me. I lived down the beach, so I was pretty much down the beach every day and doing 12 contact hours at university per week. So it was a pretty cruisy life and working part-time, which I was really, really enjoying. And then out of the blue, I got a call from the Prahran Cricket Club in Melbourne asking whether I'd like to come over and try my luck playing for Prahran and trying to play for Victoria. And to be fair, I didn't really give it much credence. I was thinking, my life's pretty good in Perth. Why would I do this? And I ended up sitting down with my parents and asking them for some advice, whether I should do this or not. And they said, well, why wouldn't you think about it more deeply? And it's a pretty good opportunity. Melbourne's a big city. You know, it could really further your working life. I don't think they had too much confidence in me playing professional cricket. So ended up entertaining the idea, and conversations sort of escalated. And fortunately, at the end of the WA season, we had our exit interviews, and we had the Wayne Clark was the head coach who was outgoing, and Michael Ellis was the new coach coming in, and he sat me down and gave me this sort of a timeline of playing state cricket for WA, and being the sort of the bold, brash youngster and impatient youngster that I was more, I've got this opportunity to go to Melbourne and play. What would you do? And I'll be forever thankful for Michael Ellis, because he was very upfront and very honest, and he said, mate, I would take the opportunity if I was you. I'd head over there, but bear in mind, you can always come home. You might get a few one-day games here for WA, but you're going to get more opportunity in Melbourne, because the WA squad was chock full of talent and all these players playing for Australia, and the depth was just paramount at that stage. So Michael Ellis said, yeah, I'd probably take it up, and good luck, go well, but you can always come home, and I'll be forever grateful for that honesty. And made the decision to move over to Melbourne, and the rest is history. It's probably arguably the best decision, or best professional decision I've ever made. Yeah, and it's not like you were an overnight success in Melbourne. You had to work really hard to break into that Victorian team. Probably would have been about 18 months of playing Premier cricket before you get your Shield call up. Yeah, bang on. So when I first moved over, there was no promises. I got to meet the then head coach of Victoria, John Scholes, and he said, look, if you do well in Premier cricket, that'll be able to get some second 11 games. If you do well in seconds and there's an opportunity above, like players aren't performing, you'll be there and thereabouts. But bear in mind, you're an interstater, so you will have to do more than the local boys, which for me was more, well, that's a challenge, and I like sort of proving people wrong. So it was probably just the motivation that I needed to outperform everybody else. And the first season I was terrible. I didn't perform very well for Prahran. I was cold, I was homesick, and probably wasn't the right fit for me at the time. But fortunately, the parents were very strong and said, no, you can't just give it 6 months. You got to give it at least two to 3 years before you come home.
Yep.
And fortunately, they gave me that sound advice. And second year, I ended up doing a proper pre-season and whilst working. So wake up at 6 in the morning, go to the gym 6 or 7, and then go off to work after that, and then try and do your fitness around lunchtime, and you still work after work, which I really enjoyed. It was unstructured. It was I had to do it all myself. It wasn't turning up to a professional environment and having coaches at my beck and call. It was more you have to organise this yourself with your old club teammates, and I ended up reaping the benefits and scored a few runs and got picked to play very much later on in that year, and something that I really cherish now, thinking all the work that went into actually getting that first opportunity to play, and something I'm very grateful for.
And a bit of a precursor, you get some runs in a match against England A with a lot of players that went on to terrorise the Australians in 2005. What did it mean to you to be able to get those sort of runs on the MCG? Did that help you know that you weren't far away?
Not so much I wasn't far away, because at that stage the Victoria had a new coach, Mick O'Sullivan, so there was a bit of a transition happening. But I remember thinking, fortunately I get to play at the MCG, which is a huge bonus. Like, just drive down the car park and the hairs at the back of your neck stick up. So that was a huge bonus. But then also get to play against, they turned out to be some of English cricket's greatest ever players. So, and score a few runs against them in the second innings. It was more of a belief that, actually, I can play at this level. Like, they're England's future test players. So if I score runs against them, I should be able to play Shield cricket, because that's a step down from the international arena. But so it more gave me the belief that I can actually play at the next level. And but at that stage, Victoria had some very, very fine players playing, and I thought the opportunity might not come at that stage, but fortunately it did a few games or a few months later on.
And what do you remember about the call-up? Was there much fanfare around it? Did you have a call? Do you remember the call?
I do remember the call per se, but I just remember David Hooks calling to say, you're in, you're going to bat. I think it was 6. Just try and replicate your premier form, your second 11 form in the game against New South Wales. They got all the big stars playing, but remember, and I still use this comment today, play the ball and not the man. That's all I remember really from the call. And I went out to play and found myself a first slip and ended up dropping Steve Waugh on 4, and he went on to make 111. So, it wasn't a great debut, put it that way. But one I'll never forget, because what it actually made me realise that everything's, you can't take anything for granted. So whatever you put in, you definitely get out. And I was probably at my lowest ebb on day one, and then thinking, right, I owe the team 207 runs, so I better get to it. And I think I got 7 or 8 in our first innings, and we ended up getting first innings points, which I was rapt about, because we ended up stopping New South Wales getting any points in that game, which was a really good feeling. And fortunately, I was very happy to play in the next game as well, because I probably didn't deserve to get selected again after that poor first performance.
And the 03-04 season's a great one. Victoria lift the Sheffield Shield, and a game in that season against New South Wales up in Newcastle, you get 51 in the first innings, and then you're asked to chase 450 plus in the second innings. A double century at any level is outstanding, but for you to do it in this arena against the New South Wales team, and to do it at nearly a run a ball, 212 off 218 balls, can you give us your reflections on that success?
Yeah, it was a utopia game, really. You played against all the New South Wales stars, Slater, the 2 Waugh brothers, Brad Haddon, Simon Kadich is a good friend, Stuart McGill. So it was an unbelievable experiences to play against them first and foremost. But then we were in really good form at that stage. I don't think we'd given a point away to any other team in the competition. We had really good fast bowlers, we had good batters, Matthew Elliott, Brad Hodge, Jason Arnberger. We had some really good players. So I knew it was going to be a really good contest. And it was an unspoken goal, but every time you played against New South Wales, you sort of get yourself up for the contest, because we perceive them as equals to us, two biggest states playing against each other. And I remember thinking, I got LBW first innings for 50, and I was thinking I've just left 100 out there. Like, it was such a poor dismissal. I was just poor technique. My mind was confused. And I'm thinking, right, really got to make the most of it in the second innings. The pitch is flat, or easy pace, I probably should say. The outfield was just rocket fast. So anything that passed the infield was for it at all times. And the way New South Wales play the game is they really attack and don't send too many outfielders out whilst the quicks are on. So it was really good fun to play. And then they said it's 450 in the second innings to win. And Dave Hook said, right, this is easy. We set the game up to 50 over comps, and we get 200, loss of, I think it was 2 or 3 wickets in the first 50 overs. In the second 50 overs, we get 255, and we score at 4.5 and over, and it's easy, okay? And I just remember walking out of this meeting that Hooks has just lost it. Like, there's no chance of us chasing 455, but the way he simplified everything was like, well, hang on, we could probably actually do this. We just got to keep wickets in hand. And as I said before, the pitch was very easy pace. The outfield was very fast, and they were a tiring attack. So I thought, we're a sneaky chance. And I think Brad Hodge got a few runs too. And Shane Harwood came out and hit the winning runs. He played the leg spin better than anyone, better than Kevin Peterson. And it was a great celebration and one of the best wins I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, and getting that dominance in Shield cricket, a really good sort of era where yourselves, New South Wales, Queensland, all sort of very strong teams. You had some great battles with Queensland. I think the 3 Shield titles you won were all against Queensland. I wanted to ask you about 08-9 and 09-10. You go back to back, and you have an impact in both of those finals, scoring runs in each of them. To win one Shield is a massive achievement. What does it take culture-wise to get a group to go back to back at that level?
Oh, a hell of a lot of work that goes involved. Everyone just thinks it's the final 11 that actually plays and wins the game or draws the game in order for you to host the Shield, to lift the Shepherd Shield. But it's a whole squad because there's injuries, there's international selection, there's lots of form. There's just a whole host of things that go on. So it definitely takes the whole squad. But just remember the back-to-back was more about put your egos in check and do your role for your team. Greg Shipp was a master manipulator. So if you ever got too far ahead of yourself, he'd always bring you back down to earth. But equally, if you're low on confidence, he'd always find a way to build your confidence back up in order for you to contribute to the team's success. And we had some phenomenal players who were just sort of close to the international arena, but not actually quite there at that stage. And we just had a really good squad that really wanted to play not only for each other, but also be the best squad throughout the nation at that stage. And going back to back and to contribute in those Shield finals in scoring runs is a bit of a bonus because in the first ever Shield final I played in, I think I was the lowest score in our team, and I think I made a pact that I was never going to be the lowest score ever again because it's rather embarrassing.
and to have success with your old WA mate Bucky Rogers, big partnership for you guys. Two early wickets in that one, and you guys kind of resurrect things.
Yeah, it was an interesting Shield final though, because that was played at the City Power Centre at Junction Oval in St Kilda, and I think we won the toss and batted on a bit of a juicy pitch, and I was thinking, I'll probably bowl first on this, and we lost a couple of early ones, and then I walked out to bat and almost fell down the stairs. Going out, I'm thinking, right, come on, switch on here. Like, obviously nervous, your feet aren't moving, but it's even to get out in the middle of the field. And I just remember asking Chris, hey, what's going on out here? And normally you don't really hear what's going on. You just sort of lock yourself in. But just remember hearing everything, all the instructions that Hope is going into me. Just make sure you get yourself outside the line. He's trying to get your LB bowls. Yep, cool. And I just remember, right, let's lock in together and let's set ourselves up to bat the whole day. And, fortunately we did. We had a really good partnership. I think it went a long way to actually drawing that game of cricket because, truth be told, if we had set Queensland 600 runs in and they could have had 6 or 7 days to score these runs, I reckon they would have got on that pitch. It was pretty flat and easy pace by the end of that time. Yeah.
And moving into your international cricket, you get to make your T20 debut against the, at the time, world champions India. You don't get to bat, unfortunately, but you pick up the wicket of MS Dhoni on debut.
Yeah, it was a bit of a bonus. I didn't expect to bowl. I thought I'd bat and maybe try and kife a few into the stands by the end of the 20 overs. But unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not really sure. But we end up having a comfortable win, and I think Hodge hit the winning runs, which is great. We ended up beating them easily in front of 84,000 people. It was a really good an experience to be part of, because my then girlfriend, my wife now, she didn't think that cricket was such a good game at that stage, and she didn't think it was a very well or a big followed game in cricket. And then she turned up to the MCG with 84,000 screaming people and very, very loud, and she thought, oh, actually cricket's quite a good game and it's very well followed throughout the world. So it was a wonderful experience, and all I remember is that Michael Clarke getting this unbelievable run out early and just thinking, geez, the intensity just goes to a new level from playing domestic cricket to international cricket. So the intensity and skill level has to improve in order to be at your best and perform at your best at all times. And that's probably the biggest takeaway I found from playing international cricket.
And that era for T20 is still relatively new. You guys had your nicknames on the back of the shirts. It was all a bit of fun. That game also, there's a great image of Adam Vogis bowling when he's on a hat-trick there, and there's like 7 guys around the bat. Any other things that stand out from that opening game for you?
All I remember is that the noise that emanated out of that stadium. I was fielding it mid-off or mid-on to Nathan Bracken, who was bowling, and Michael Clarke was trying to get my attention, and he's waving to me and he's talking to me, but I couldn't hear him. Like, it was probably 40 metres away, and I just couldn't hear him. Normally at a Shield game, you could hear him like crystal clear, but that's probably the only thing I can really remember. And bowling as well. I bowled MS Dhoni, and I just got this feeling that he's going to try and hit me for 6 sixes in this over. And the pitch was really old and used, and it's pretty hard to hit dead straight at the MCG on a used pitch. And the square boundaries are like 400 metres long. So I was thinking, if he can try and hit me for 6 out the square boundaries, it's a pretty good hit. So ended up getting him deep court at deep mid-wicket, about 70 metres short of the boundary. And like I said, it was a monster hit. But yeah, those are the couple of things that I probably remember the most about the T20 game against India at the MCG.
And breaking into the 50-over team, you do that later in 2008, debut against the West Indies. This time you do get a bat, you get a half century, and it's a 1-run win. How are the emotions ticking that one off?
Well, firstly, I probably didn't deserve to make that tour. I think I averaged about 6 or 7 for Victoria that year in one-day cricket. So I was very blessed to be on the right sort of selection that trip, and ended up being 12th man or 13th man for pretty much the first 3 games. And then inexplicably, they made a change, and I subbed in for good friend Cameron White at the stage. So it was a little bit awkward there. Yeah. And then I didn't sleep that well that night because you're making your debut, and the great Ricky Ponting gets to present your cap for me, and which was awesome experience. And I was really just enjoying the morning. And then Mike Young, the fielding coach, he walked over and said, "Hey, youngster, come here. And there's one thing getting picked, another thing, hey, you got to perform at the biggest level as well. You got to turn them on. You got to turn it on, or something like that." And it's like, oh God, just pile a bit more pressure on me, sort of thing. And fortunately, I got to bat with Andrew Simons that day, and he made me feel really, really special and part of the group, which was excellent. And we ended up making a decent total and come down the last over, and Shane Watson bowled this unbelievable over in order for us to win the game. And I just remember sitting back, exhausted, just so tired, mentally drained, and just thinking, thank goodness that we won the game, because that made us 4-0 winners of the tour, and they couldn't beat us in that tour. And I just remember thinking, well, I get to have a drink and just sort of celebrate each other's company, because it was just a moment you'll never forget, because it was just a great win, great team win. Yeah,
absolutely. And as far as your international career goes, you play a lot of games in short format cricket. Your 100 against Scotland, where does that kind of stack up for you?
Well, I probably didn't deserve to play that game either. I wasn't. It was actually a precursor to the two T20 games we're playing against England, and because we're coming out of our winter, Tim Nielsen, the coach, and Ricky Ponting said, "Well, how about we play our T20 team in this game against Scotland, and therefore they can get the match practice or the needed match practice in order to prepare for the T20 games." And so by default, I got to bat 4 against the Scottish team and ended up scoring a few runs, which was excellent. It's always nice to make 100 and contribute to a team win. But yeah, it was sort of like a bittersweet feeling, like I should be playing far better and far more consistently for the Australian team in order to keep my place in the team rather than being the inconsistent player that I was. So still very happy to score 100 for Australia in that fact, though.
And playing in the UK in general, how would you assess the impact of playing in the UK on you as a cricketer? How did it help you develop your game?
Loved it. Learned so much about it. Mentally draining, physically draining, but you learn so much about your batting game. For example, I think it was the first or second year, and Ian Blackwell, left-arm spinner from Somerset, was bowling over the wicket to me into the rough. And as a right-handed player, you should just pat it away. But I've never experienced this tactic before in my life. And ended up saying to the senior pro at that stage was Darren Bicknell, and said, he was a left-hander. There's any chance that you could face the left-arm off-spinner who's bowling over the wicket to me, and then you can just get outside the line and use your pad. And I'll take the quicks at the other end until they have a spell, And he said, "No, mate, you got to learn how to play this way." I said, "Well, teach me." He said, "Just pat him away." And so I tried to pat him away, and I think one hit the top of my pad, went into my grill. Next one just missed the gloves, and so I thought, "Bugger this, I'm just going to get hurt here." So I started trying to defend it, and ended up defending and nicking to slip and walking off. And the head coach came to me and said, "What are you doing? You got to practice patting the ball away, or you're just going to get out straight away." And so from then on, I was like, right, get to the nets and just practice patting the ball away from out of the rough. And sure enough, the left-arm spinners into the rough, they generally 4 or 5 balls they tried, and they go back around the wicket and they bowl on the good side of the pitch. So that was just one example of learning how to play difficult spin on a day 4 pitch, and something that I still try and teach kids today, and how to play in different conditions and how to play in different situations. And it's a legacy that hopefully will get passed on from generation to generation.
Yeah, and speaking of that sort of passing on of information among players, the influence of T20 cricket around the world, has that certainly helped fast track the share of knowledge and the share of cricket acumen, I guess, amongst players and coaches around the world?
Yeah, and also has sort of broken down a lot of barriers for, like, when you play international cricket against other teams, you sort of don't really know the opposition that well, as in enough to say hello and have a drink with them at the end of the game, at the end of the tour, but you don't really get to know them, or you don't really want to get to know them either. At least if you're playing in the IPL or any other franchise team, you get to sit down with them day in, day out, and you find out what makes them tick, and you find information out about how to play in certain games, certain grounds, certain situations, and you think, wow, I can really implement that into my game as well. So you get sort of inside information about different countries and what makes them tick, and how to play against them, et cetera, sort of thing. So playing in the IPL is a wonderful experience, and I think it just sort of fast-tracked everybody's learnings about T20 cricket and how to play the perfect game of T20 cricket, which is sort of only stays in vogue for, say, 1 to 2 years. Then it's sort of the evolution of T20 cricket and the tactics that changes feels like on a year-by-year basis. It's uncanny and phenomenal, really.
Yeah, and what would you say was the most enjoyable thing for you? What was the most fun part about playing IPL cricket?
Well, I played 6.5 years of IPL cricket. I really enjoyed the pressure, probably playing in the IPL. Like, you're highly paid, and every part of the team is looking for you to score runs. I really enjoyed that pressure, and you got to play for the team and really work with the local players. You work with the other overseas players, and you really got to put your ego in check. So that's probably the best thing about playing in India. But you get to travel all over the country. You play on the fast bouncy wickets in Mohali. You get to play in the spinning pitches down in Chennai. The good cricket pitches on the small boundaries in Bangalore. Just sort of enjoying every state and their little differences of their trainings, and get to meet some really interesting people and find out just how everybody ticks and how everybody else plays their cricket, and it's just a lifelong experience that you'll never forget. Touring India is a wonderful, wonderful experience, and I recommend it to everybody.
And you transition out of cricket. You mentioned your coach, Greg Shippert, earlier. You got a good relationship with him. You're coming to the back end of your first-class domestic career in Australia. Tell us a little bit about how you moved from being a player into working in a coaching capacity and into the role that you're in now.
Yeah, so when I was finishing up from cricket, Sean Grafton, and he's the general manager of cricket at that stage, him and Greg Shippert got together and said, would I like to be the batting coach for the second 11 and the senior team, and therefore learn on what it takes in up to being a head coach. So obviously they saw something in me that might want to be a coach, and I'll be forever grateful for that, because the skills I learned by osmosis and just by watching and just taking everything in was just phenomenal, really. It was just one of those things which I sort of just fell into, and always been sort of that person where a door closes and another door opens pretty quickly. So long may that continue, and something I'll be forever grateful for. And I really enjoyed working with Greg Shippert. He's a people's person, always saw the best in people, but like I said before, he when everybody was down or he knew how to lift their confidence up, but also made people, if they were too far ahead of themselves, he sort of dragged them back into line pretty quickly, and always got people playing for the team, which is a great trait to have.
And your involvement now in Victorian cricket, can you give us a little bit of a snapshot of what your role involves and how you see yourself going forward? What's the next phase of life for David Hussey looking like?
Oh, well, what an awful question to ask.
Sorry.
Well, right now I'm ahead of male cricket, so I run Sheffield Shield, Second 11, Marsh Cup cricket, 17s and 19s cricket for Victoria, and we're going through a bit of a transition period at the moment. We've got some really young fast bowlers coming up, young spin bowlers coming through the ranks, so my goal is to get them or to allow them to achieve their goals of playing for Australia, and I do that by providing the best environment possible for them to work as hard as they possibly can, learn up with some of the best coaches in the world, and have them ready to play international cricket and set themselves up for success, really. But also have them ready to play franchise cricket too, if it can happen as well. For example, like a Matt Short, I think he had 3 days to get ready to play in the 100 as a replacement player, and he was ready to go. So have this environment there, everybody can learn and be the best version of themselves they can possibly be, and play the game that they love and the game that I love, and all over the world, and achieve what they want to achieve. And hoping to keep working with Chris and Ben Rohrer and Adam Griffith and Craig Howard and Graham Maynooth, and an excellent general manager, and hopefully I can work with them for a couple more years left, and then after that I'm not sure what's going to happen next. Maybe it's time to hand the reins over to somebody else that has different beliefs and different goals that they want to achieve out of the game for Victorian cricket.
And definitely I like your point there around producing Australian cricketers. You mentioned yourself early on, it was the Lilies and the Marshes that you're watching on the TV. For young kids, if they're seeing a Matt Short excel in Australian colours and they know that he was a Victorian, he is a Victorian, it does provide that aspirational element.
Couldn't agree with you more. I just remember I was at the Boxing Day test, and I think it was Brad Hodge playing at the Boxing Day test, and the noise that emanated out of that stadium for a Victorian player to play was just incredible. Like, it was just unfounded, and it was something that always has stuck with me. I thought, right, I want to play in the Boxing Day test, and unfortunately that never happened. Just wasn't quite good enough. But then seeing good friend Scotty Boland play at the Boxing Day test, and the noise that came from one of the stands when he was bowling was just incredible. And it's like, yeah, that's what Victorian cricket needs to do. We need to produce more Australian players, and not just the 1 to 2 test Australian players. They need to be playing 30 to 40 Test players playing for Australia and at Boxing Day Test. We need 2 batters, we need a fast bowler and a spinner like Warney did, and have these future Victorian players grow up and idolising the Matt Shorts, the Scott Bolans, the Marcus Harrises, so to speak, and Will Putowski, so to speak, and hopefully they can achieve their goals or playing Test cricket for Australia at the Boxing Day Test, because that's what it's all about. You want to be motivating the next generation of cricketers coming through. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, we can't let you go without asking our hardest hitting question. If David Hussey could have a dream net session, you can invite anyone you want. Who are your 3 picks for a dream net?
Oh, God, this is a really difficult question. So on short notice, I'd probably say Derek Jeter, because I just love the way he carried himself for the New York Yankees for such a long period of time. Always played for the team, was a captain, great leader. I just think he'd be a phenomenal person just to side up next to and A, show him our game of cricket, but also B, side up next to and just hear some of the stories and what makes him tick and what made him to be one of the best players ever to play for the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
Number 2 would be Jerry Seinfeld. I think he'd be one of the best people just to side up next to, just to listen to him talk and for humour value, really. And number 3, Shane Warne. He was just one of the best, and sadly he's not around anymore. A person who was a great confidant, but also he's just the world's greatest ever spin bowler, and I don't think he'll ever be another spin bowler like him ever again. So he's sorely missed, and I think he'd be a person that I'd love to spend another couple of hours with again, because he's great company.
Yeah, incredible legacy on the game, SKW, and just quickly on Shane. The impact he had on you as an individual. Any reflections that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so Shane and I don't really know this, but I always felt that Shane always thought I was quite a good player or played the game the right way by taking the game on and trying to score runs. I always got that feeling that he really enjoyed the way I played the game. And then when I didn't do very well, he was reasonably tough on me, really hard. And I thought, maybe he just doesn't like me, sort of thing. So I went through this stage where I think I'm a good player, he doesn't like me. And then ended up playing county cricket against him. He played for Hampshire, I played for Nottinghamshire. And Hampshire were all over Nottinghamshire, and they were pretty much going to force a win at Trent Bridge, and ended up making a few runs and causing Hampshire to secure a draw, really. And we went at each other verbally on the field, and it was like two ugly Australians going at each other verbally on the cricket field. And because where Shane is in the world of cricket, where his stature is compared to my stature of being a D-class citizen in cricket, it was sort of like, hang on, who is this young upstart having a crack at the world's greatest ever leg spinner, And it was pretty bad. I ended up going downstairs after the game, after not secured a draw, and trying to have a drink with him. And he said, "Nope, we're not drinking." Nah. And he was devastated with me. We weren't good at all, and ended up playing Shura cricket that year with him. And I ended up sort of sat down next to him and discussed it at length with him. And he said, I just didn't really like the way we went about it. It was a really bad game of cricket, but I realised that you're a very good player, and he was probably one of my biggest supporters by the end of my cricket life. So he's probably one of the ones who was always talking to the Aussie selectors, saying, you should pick this guy. He's talented, he's good, he plays the game the right way. So we went through some ups and downs, but I think we had the mutual respect for each other, and idolised him because he was one of the all-time greats. But I sort of came in and out of vogue with Warne in terms of my cricket. But someone who I always went to for advice and how to play the game and what to do, whether as a player or as a coach. And he was just a very succinct person who gave succinct advice, and this is what you got to do, mate. And he's going to be sorely missed. Yeah, absolutely. And a regular selection on our Dream Net session, Shane Warne. Lots of people choosing him. And I will say too, Derek Jeter was also on Chris Hartley's list. So no way. So there you go. Yeah, he had Warney, Derek Jeter, and RT Ponting. So no room for punter on your list, but I think Jerry Seinfeld would be a very good little addition there. So be some excellent banter. Well,
Thank you so much, David, for joining us on the Cricket Library podcast. It's been a real thrill for me to hear more of your story. I know our listeners will resonate with it, and wish you all the best with your work at Cricket Victoria, and look forward to seeing your career continue to blossom.
Much appreciated, Matty. And for any young cricketers out there, especially from Victoria, come and play at the Boxing Day Test. That's the goal.
Come and play at the MCG on Boxing Day. Great to have David Hussey as a guest on the Cricket Library podcast, and great to hear that he's keeping that dream alive for the next generation of cricketers who are coming through the Victorian system at the moment. Well, a massive thanks to you as well, our loyal listeners. Without you, the podcast wouldn't be what it is today, and we're very appreciative of every one of you who tunes in. And if you're new to listening and this is the first episode you've heard, make sure you check out the back catalogue. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. You will definitely enjoy what we've got in that back catalogue, and plenty more in the pipeline throughout the summer ahead. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out. This has been Matt Ellis for the Cricket Library podcast. Bye for now.